Hey, summer is here in the USA, and one of the newly popular options in Boston and other Massachusetts cities is for folks to gather at temporary outdoor beer gardens. And you know it, and I know it. Yes, indeed. Don't be surprised when I tell you that certain politicians and certain business interests in this former cradle of American liberty want to use the force of government to bring this rising option to its virtual knees. All right, just in time to celebrate Independence Day comes this news of the kind of cronyism that King George himself might have admired. According to Balin Linnekin, writing for Reason magazine, a gang of Massachusetts politicians are eager to crack the government baton over the rise of beer gardens. And what are beer gardens? Beer gardens have quickly reshaped and improved Boston's summer drinking scene. Since debuting in the city in 2017, they've become, says writer Jeff Bernstone, an indisputable fixture in city life. Last year, American Craft Beer dubbed Boston America's beer garden capital. Linnekin explains that there are 9 beer gardens in the city, and there are more just outside of Boston. The draw of a beer garden is obvious. Drinking outside is the best thing about both drinking and being outdoors. Beer gardens are fun. A typical pop-up beer garden might run several nights each week and feature games, music, food trucks, and of course, beer. They're a great use of underutilized space. Beer gardens typically pop up in a vacant lot or a strip of public park. Many are family-friendly. Kids and pets are often welcome. Others have embraced high culture. Treehouse Brewing, the top-rated brewery in Massachusetts, is featuring musicians from the famed Berklee College of Music at its beer garden. And that sounds pretty great even for a guy like me who doesn't drink beer. But you know, if people are peacefully having fun and making money at it, politicians are likely going to hit it. And thus we have this. The bill, an act relative to one-day alcoholic beverage licenses, would curtail and perhaps derail the ability of many breweries to operate beer gardens in the state. In fact, the licensing bill was written by Bob Luz, the president and CEO of the Massachusetts Restaurant Association. Yes, King George, I'll have my mercantilism supersized, please. The Restaurant Association is particularly opposed to the comparatively low cost of beer garden licenses, which run under $100 per day, and by the ease with which breweries currently may skirt a frivolous cap on the number of such licenses that can be issued to a business. Breweries and others can skirt that provision by simply having different employees apply for the permits, Boston.com reported this week. And so here's what the wonderful statute will do. No person, firm, corporation, association, or other combination of persons, directly or indirectly, or through any agent, employee, stockholder, officer, or other person, or any subsidiary whatsoever shall be granted in the aggregate more than 14 such licenses in the Commonwealth in a calendar year, or participate in decisions regarding such licenses, or receive any percentage of fee derived from gross revenues in exchange for management assistance, or participate in any other action designed to affect common results of more than 14 licenses under this section in a calendar year. I added the S there because evidently Massachusetts' budget couldn't afford that. And of course, get this. One of the co-sponsors of the bill, a Massachusetts senator named Nick Collins, added this bitterness to the brew. He is actually saying about this needless authoritarian piece of legislation, State Senator Nick Collins, who co-sponsored the bill to kill beer gardens, says he introduced it to, quote, jumpstart a conversation about beer gardens' long-term sustainability, end quote. Wow. Well, Senator Collins, you might want to keep in mind that such fatuous rhetoric doesn't hide the towering mercantilism you're proposing, the kind of mercantilism that King George would have admired. In fact, that long-term sustainability you discuss isn't the concern of parasitic politicians, and it's very easy to see how beer gardens are sustaining themselves. You can find out whether they're profiting or losing money. In addition to that, Senator, there's this fictitious notion about a conversation. Senator, legislation is about as far from a conversation as extortion is from a handshake. Legislation is force. It's a threat of government violence against people if the people don't act the way the government wants them to. And by the way, you and the other politicians are paid through force of taxation as well. You know, this is like if a mobster were to approach a business owner and tell that business owner to behave as the mobster desires. That, senator, would also not be a conversation. And there's one final point as we approach Independence Day, Senator from Massachusetts, the so-called cradle of liberty. You see, Senator, one of the cars on the long train of abuses that Thomas Jefferson discussed in the Declaration of Independence had to do with what were called kangaroo courts. That was where they were taking people, especially from Massachusetts, who were black marketeers trying to skirt the terrible mercantilist laws like the Tea Act, the Intolerable Acts, and the Stamp Act. And they were trying them outside of the Boston area. And the reason they were doing that was because there's something called jury nullification. Jury nullification is the final wall against arbitrary government tyranny, where people on a jury can find someone not guilty if they believe that the law is wrong. So, the British were trying people in Nova Scotia, and Thomas Jefferson actually referred to this inside the Declaration of Independence. It was a direct response to mercantilist legislation, the kind of legislation that you are pushing. And yet, I don't think you'll be thinking about that as perhaps you toast Independence Day. Well, you better not do it at a beer garden, because goodness knows it seems like you don't like them. I think Thomas Jefferson would have. Hey, thanks so much for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and happy Independence Day as it approaches. For MRC-TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.